Well, it's great to connect with you. Tell me what's going on and how I could help.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just kind of working through the 2 month schedule that you had originally given me. And although I've had a bit of kind of some hiccups and I've changed the schedule a bit according to what I think I need to focus on more, I am kind of coming to the end of it and hoping to spend the last couple of weeks before the November exam on timed full prep tests. So I'm kind of happy it's going well, but I certainly do have some questions for you. For the first one, right now I'm kind of finally getting at that stage where I am getting better at my accuracy, and I haven't yet started focusing on timing. But one of the things that's really been helping me on my accuracy is active engagement with the questions, which is something you talk about often. And I'm finding it's really helpful for me. I'm really talking myself through the questions, and I'm taking that time to do that. And I'm sure, as I keep doing that and getting better at it, the timing will come as well. But given that the November exam is about 3 weeks away, do you have any tips to kind of transition from the accuracy to the timing stage?
Yeah, and my recommendation is a simple one, which is start doing some timed exams. Just mix them in.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
That's it. I mean, there are only three sections, not five, so the full length exams are not as big a deal, but you still want to get several under your belt before test day.
For sure. And so with the November LSAT Flex, when do you recommend kind of making the the switch over to doing or full-time prep tests exams?
I would say at least 3 to 4 weeks prior. So that's really now.
Like right now, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, that's awesome. So I think the thing with me is I have a bit of a unique situation in that I've kind of studied on and off for the LSAT for several years. Things have happened in my life, and I wanted to write the LSAT almost 4 years ago, and my father passed away, so that kind of pushed it. And then I started doing my master's degree, and that pushed the LSAT studying as well. I'm finally kind of getting to it now, and even now, I was supposed to get married this year and study for the LSAT next year, but because of COVID, we've decided to switch the two things around. So I have kind of a lot less time than I would have wanted to prepare for it. I'm also going to be writing the January to kind of give myself a little more time to study as well. But one of the issues I've kind of been coming across is each time that I've tried to study for the LSAT, I've studied using different programs or companies, as you might say. And I know every company kind of has their own approach. And somewhere within understanding all the different approaches, I definitely have I don't have a very clear idea of the different question types or kind of how to approach them. So I know that I need a little more. I need a little more practice doing individual question types, but I'm finding that I just don't feel like it's coming together for me as clearly as I would have wanted to. Actually, funny enough, this whole poster behind me is just logical reasoning question types that I've written out for myself so I can see it while I'm doing prep tests, just in case I don't remember how to approach the question. But is there anything else you might suggest to kind of get a little better at specific question types or help kind of departmentalize it in my head a little more?
Well, I'm glad you got the poster. I saw it behind you and I couldn't help wondering if it were LSAT related. You certainly would not be the first or the last. But that kind of taking charge of your prep and making it part of your environment just speaks to your dedication. So I'm excited about that. I was also happy to hear that you're allowing time until January because that takes the pressure off of November, which is just a few weeks away now. It takes the pressure off just a little bit and a lot, actually. So that's pretty significant. And that means that there's not nearly as much importance placed on November in particular. And so you might want to think about, do you just focus your goals and focus your prep on January specifically and orient your timeline around that? Then maybe you take November, maybe you don't, but obviously a lot more can be done with an additional 2+ months.
Right. Okay, that's fair. And then I think one more thing, sorry, I have little notes here. That's what I keep looking at. I think one more thing that I was just kind of thinking about is the prep test, like setting up that prep test environment. And I know you've spoken to a lot of other students about dealing with anxiety and kind of doing the test under real conditions. And I'm finding that I'm kind of also having that anxiety when I start doing prep tests. It's almost like, one section when it gets a little over 35 minutes, all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, okay, now I might as well just take my time with this prep test and do it without the time conditions. But obviously I can't do that all the time. Any tips for kind of just anxiety that, around that sort of timed prep test scenario?
Well, it's definitely an adjustment, and it's a full length exam adjustment, but it's also even for individual timed sections. And so your first several timed sections, of course, it's natural to go over time, and you'll have to figure out your pacing to get that timing down a bit. And so maybe the first time it takes you an hour to do a one section, then 55 minutes, then 50. And so gradually you increase the pressure a little bit to get yourself down to 35. And you can note where you were at the 35-minute mark and then just continue on if you're not taking it to be a real full-length exam or real full section. But as the exam gets closer, you are going to want to take those training wheels off and just say whatever you did at 35 minutes, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
I had a comment on the question types as well, because as you said, lots of different programs have different terminologies, different styles. At the end of the day, it's all still the same exam content. And so I think a lot of the terminologies really are window dressing. If you know a strengthening question is a strengthening question, parallel is parallel, then there's not really that much confusion at the end of the day. And you may want to translate from one system to another, or you may want to throw their terminologies away altogether and just go with whatever most simply represents the language LSAC uses and go to that in the end, because that's what you're going to face on test day.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a really good note too. And actually it's almost good to hear that from you, because I think sometimes just the anxiety of having to try to categorize the questions as they come up makes me overthink. Like I'll sit there and just wonder what type of question it is for a while. But I think before I even started studying for the LSAT and I did my first just raw LSAT, I actually did pretty well because I just kind of intuitively knew what the question types were and what they were asking. But I think kind of just practicing the prep tests, having that under my belt is going to give me that confidence and reassurance that, I know what I'm doing. So I'm excited to make the transition to go into more prep tests timed. One other question I did have for you actually surrounded reading comp. And I think it's just, I used to be a very fast reader, and I'm not anymore because I haven't been reading all that much. My master's research in the last couple of years really was just about like writing and doing interviews. And I had already gotten my reading part of my research out of the way. And I just find that I haven't been reading a whole lot in my spare time. The speed reader, I've tried to do that and I find it helpful. Do you suggest that be an activity I try to do almost every day to just kind of get better, maybe 5-10 minutes a day? Or is that just something, maybe is not going to help as much now for the November exam, but might help a little more for the January?
I would say it will definitely help more on a longer timeline. And so you may not even want to bother with it before November if you're placing some importance on how November goes. But I think 5 minutes a day over a longer period of time could have an impact, but it's not going to be useful for every single person. And so if it stresses you out too much to even bother doing it, then it's certainly something you don't need to do. It's just one tool that's available to you.
Okay, awesome. And I think that's kind of all of the questions that I had for now. I think more after I write the November exam, it'll really just be about, okay, how am I going to go about my study schedule for January now? Because I'll have kind of gotten all of the videos and the initial learning out of the way. So it'll really just be about doing more prep tests and more just kind of practicing hands-on that way. Is there anything specific you suggest I do after the November exam? Maybe like really go into identifying my weak areas before studying again for January? Or
Yeah, that's something I would always recommend whether you were taking November or not. And so assuming you've got a pretty good foundation in the lead up to November, then after that point, you can switch gears a little bit and say, okay, I've got the basics down. Let me focus on certain particular weak areas, maybe certain logical reasoning types you want to drill, then focus on those as you go for January, along with, of course, doing more full-length exams. One comment I have for you around taking two exams like November and January is save a handful of timed exams for your January take, or maybe even save the majority of your timed exams for January, because that's the one that really counts for you.
Right. Okay. And that's a really good point too, because recently as I was kind of making my schedules, I have planned to do a lot of the more recent ones before November, but I was kind of thinking that maybe I should take some of them out and do some of the older ones. So that's really good to note as well. That's kind of all of the questions I had down, to be honest. I wanted to give you a bit of feedback on just kind of your course in general. I wanted to send you an email, but then I realized we had this meeting, so it was perfect. Like I said, I've taken a variety of different courses before, and I find all of them or most of them are very kind of, they have a specific way of doing it, and it's kind of the way that they want you to learn it. Which is fine. I think some people, as long as you can find a way that works for you and stick with it, it works. What I like about the way that you have your course set up is that you do a really good job at emphasizing the foundational or important points, and it kind of allows for people, at least it allowed for me, to personalize it and build my own approach to it. And I found that really helpful. And I also think it's very unique and helpful that you have videos instead of kind of me just sitting here and reading a textbook, which is what I did for a lot of my other courses. So just wanted to say thank you, and an awesome job at kind of putting all of the resources together. You've definitely done a lot of work to make this all come together. For students like me, it's very helpful.
Well, thanks so much, Nikki. That really means a lot to me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to have you in the course, and looking forward to seeing what comes next for you. I'd love to have you be more involved in the group coaching mastermind at some point. If you ever wanted to get some hot seat coaching from me and support from others in the group, or if you ever wanted to present on something or just share something that's been working for you, or ask for support on something that you're looking for feedback on. So we have a class tonight. We also have one 2 weeks from now, and I'd love to have you get more involved in any of those.
For sure. I do plan on being there tonight for both the classes. So I'll see you then. And I would love to get more involved in the future. I think now is kind of more in my study process where things are coming together for me. I'm starting to feel more confident. And there are some other students in the course that I've just kind of seen them talk through things during those classes. And seeing them do that has kind of made me do it on my own time. And I've gotten more comfortable doing that. And that's actually what's been helping me the most. So I will definitely tune into the classes more. Thank you.
Fantastic. Of course. Well, great connecting with you, and I'll see you in class tonight.
For sure. Have a good rest of your day, Steve.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.